Welcome to the Conscious Corner. I've been obsessed with consciousness my whole life. I don't know why, I don't know anything, but we'll figure it out together. I don't know. There's so many mysteries out there still remaining, and some people say philosophy is dead. I disagree. Philosophy has died down over the last, I'd say, 100 years or so. Science has taken over. It was all philosophy at some stage, though. Like, the love of wisdom doesn't stop. We need to know. Unknownism is the philosophy of everything moves towards known states. And when I say it at that level, we take it as a very subjective experience of what known and unknown mean. We have an association to the word itself, to, the language we use for the definition. But I'm talking about a something ironically that we don't know. And the reason I disagree philosophy is dead is because the whys still remain in a lot of areas. When it was all philosophy, natural science, even mathematics, biology, that's where it started. I mean, Aristotle was technically the first biologist, right? He wanted to study life and he wanted to explain things. What drove him to do that is unknownism. We need to know. There is a curiosity that humans have, that I have, that everybody has, individually and collectively. It's a very evolutionary thing. The more we know, the more chances are we will survive. And we can control our environment, which we do these days, which enhances our survival. This is not overly different from the mystery of consciousness, the hard problem of consciousness that David Chalmers coined in 1994, which is, why do we have this subjective, rich experience of life? What is it that our brain can put reality together all at once, which it does? We'd be able to go through life. And I suspect it's hard to tell, a lot of animals, mammals, and reptiles do this. Like, their brains put reality together. I do believe they've got some level of consciousness. I think life and consciousness are tied together, but that's controversial as well. They could go through life, or if you want to talk about the philosophical zombie, we don't have to have an experience of life. A lot of people say that it's a sidecar, that it's just there for the ride, that it's an afterthought. Like, we basically make decisions in the quantum world, which it says we don't have free will specifically, but like, we make decisions and then afterwards the experience comes. Either way, going back to the evolution, it's definitely an advantage. And so we can control our environment. We can survive collectively much better. Individually, we want determinism for our own lives. For the future, we want to know exactly what's going to happen, because there's a comfort. And these days, anxiety comes from the fact that we worry about what's potentially going to happen. That's how minds and our brains and our consciousness are geared. Right, there is that underlying, I call it the psychology of the unknown. That is the primitive fear that manifests itself into all of the other fears and basically all of the other emotions we have these days, because it's very primitive, right? The interesting thing about evolution, it's been happening for roughly about 4 billion years. That's a long time to build these instincts that we have, to build these emotions that we experience, and also to build the thinking that we have. And going back to Aristotle, they were the first group of people, the Socratic philosophers, with Socrates, even before that, the pre-Socratic philosophers, to look out and say, all right, there is a mystery, like, what is going on here? And why are things repeating? And that's an interesting thing, because we definitely akin towards patterns. Patterns is that predictability. When things do the same thing every day, we feel comfortable because we know tomorrow we're going to wake up. It's not going to be chaotic. Having said that, fast forward all the way now, with everything we know about particle physics and quantum field theory, we can now explain that predictability. And that makes us even more comfortable living, because we have definitive laws that we know will not get broken. One of them, I think the only one we can really hold on to, is the second law of thermodynamics, because we have changed our minds over the years. There was Newtonian physics, which got upended by the Einsteinian physics. And that's natural, right? That's the evolution of our thinking. We think and come up with different predictions and theories, which then some of them make it to be proven, at least through empirical data. And that becomes the truth. That's what we understand. But that's all coming from the same curiosity. It's the same flow. And the Hegelian, or Hegel, talked about the unraveling of humans and human history. And it's all unraveling together in some ways. He called it the Geist, or the mind. This collective, I want to say consciousness, but I'm overloading the consciousness term. There's something collective about humans cooperating and understanding each other, and moving in a direction. Like, humans are just going somewhere. It's an interesting thing to think about. I mean, it's hard to disagree. Clearly, ever since we started writing things down and sharing knowledge, you can see a trajectory of humans. I mean, there is definitely, like, the phases. We could talk about the medieval period, or you could talk about the ancient period, how the thought patterns were collectively. I guess you could classify as what they thought was true, right? There's certain beliefs that intertwine with the truth. First of all, there is no absolute truth. Everything is relative. It's relative to humans individually. Certain people think different things and hold them to be true, the beliefs. And then collectively, you could say the same thing, right? There's certain periods of time where we thought certain things were true, and now we think different things are true, and that's okay. Either way, what I'm trying to get to is, like, the underlying principles of all of this, and one of them is unknownism. And unknownism, I think Heidegger also talked about this in his ontology, is that individually we are bringing in more knowns. And that's a part of what life is about. We start with 89 billion neurons in our brain. None of them are bound to each other. Like, there is a blank slate. This is what John Locke talked about through empiricism. It's like, there's a blank slate. We start not knowing anything in some ways. Having said that, the rationalists would say that there is something inbuilt in us. But let's just stick with empiricism for now. We don't know anything. And over time, our neurons bind and we know more and more. And the more that we know, the better it is for our lives individually, because of not only survival, but understanding, like, from our data points, the brain can start to make better predictions about the future. And our minds developed on top of that. And now we're talking about minds, and we also have consciousness to experience life along the way. This all increases our chance of survival. It increases collectively our chance of survival. All driven by knowing more. And I also make the claim that unknownism basically is what the universe wants to have happen as well. I make the claim that unknownism is the philosophy of everything. It's the driver, the why of everything, to be known. And what's interesting is extending a lot of previous thinking that we've done in this area, but it changes what the meaning of unknown and known is. I don't think we're equipped to understand the meaning of knowns and unknowns, and not the word itself. The word has certain association in English and other languages, but what does it mean to be known? What does it mean for the universe to want to be discovered? Why are the laws of the universe very fine-tuned for us to experience the way that we do? Why haven't we found life anywhere else in the universe? These are all philosophy of the mind type questions. But either way, I do believe we're moving towards more known states. Individually, we do that in our lives. Collectively, we do that as humans. The universe's evolution that presented to us from the Big Bang to now, 14 billion years, is it? Or something like that, is about wanting to be known. Life, why did life start? There is something around this unknownism that life latches onto. How could we be known if we don't live? And so unknownism is interesting, and it's a very abstract philosophy, but abstraction is a principle of life. If we look at us, we are an abstraction of the trillions and trillions of atoms that make up our body. There's something about organs that abstract out those atoms, and then they function at their level and then cooperate with other organs to give us the living organism that we are. Do we experience any of that in our life? No, I don't experience any neurons firing in my brain. I want to, but I can't. And so abstraction is super key.